Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. Here we are on episode 665, and we got our friend Mark here, and your host right here, DanK. We're talking about another book report that Mark's been reading and can tell us about, which is great. I really appreciate Mark coming in and giving us some insight on what's available and getting some history of where we're at and why we are where we are.
Well, you know, it's a pleasure to be here because I try to find things that your teacher never told you about, so you can you can learn the hidden history of it.
And also make your announcement on your court decision.
Oh yeah, so if you want to go to FIJA.org, FIJA.org, that stands for the Fully Informed Jury Association. My co-defendant Eric Brandt and I, the judges, the panel of judges at the Colorado Court of Appeals has made a decision that we are not guilty. So the prosecution has 21 days or maybe a little bit longer before the court issues an official mandate. So we're hoping that they will leave it alone this time. It was the prosecution that appealed it last time, but we were looking at 21 years, so whew, big relief. Now I only have to worry about 50 hours community service. So. And we got that on appeal too. So go to FIJA and learn about jury nullification, because in marijuana law, jury nullification has accounted for a lot of people getting their freedom and repealing bad marijuana laws. And I would urge everybody to learn about jury nullification, and the First Amendment will protect you, and you can distribute the literature in front of the courthouse. Just don't distribute it to your own jury.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. And yeah, that's I've been a big fan of that for a long time, and we need to spread the word because it's one of the few things we have left to fight with, one of the tools we have to fight with. So things are going, it's going to be needed even more and more.
Jury nullification is effective for fighting corrupt cops and politicians.
It's just, in fact, this I don't want to speak too much time today, but just basically make people aren't familiar with what we're talking about. Give them a quick rundown. What does that mean? On
jury nullification?
Yeah.
Jury nullification is your right to vote not guilty if it's a bad law made by bad politicians designed to generate revenue for the politicians, the cops, the jails, and the prisons. And it's been a legal maneuver in the courtroom that has come from England and passed down to the forefathers of the Constitution. And you can control a jury. If you are a juror and you think that a penalty is too harsh or the law is really bad, you don't even have to tell anybody why. You can vote not guilty. And in most states, I don't know about Oregon, you can hang the jury. I think in Oregon it takes 2 people to do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Except murder. Yeah. But and that right there is how you repeal bad law. And so all through history, bad laws have been repealed with jury nullification. And now in this era of time with marijuana, if everybody across America distributed information from the Fully Informed Jury Association, FIJA, to all these people going to the courthouse for jury duty, and they read it and understood it and used it, then we could get rid of all the bad marijuana laws in America forever.
Yeah, definitely. So it's really something to think about and pay attention to and get involved in. Like Mark said, I remember an article I did some few years ago. I can't remember, an 83-year-old guy was out handing literature, and they tried to charge him, and he ended up being acquitted. Because it was legal what he was doing. They didn't like it, but it was legal, and so they had to let him go.
And I think in Massachusetts, some professor was doing it, and he got arrested, and they let him go.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like to say that your freedoms and your rights are like a muscle. If you don't use them, you're going to lose them.
And, you know, every day, you know, Department of Justice, U.S. Treasury, they're all coming out with ways to take away your freedom. And freedom is like something that is very precious. And you don't know how precious it is until you lose it. And so in order to keep your freedom, if you know anybody that's gotten arrested on some bad marijuana law, then distribute that jury nullification information in front of the courthouse. I used to do it every week, week in and week out, and educate it, and it had an effect. The public defenders were telling me they were getting more not guilties like that. So I encourage you all
there you
to
go.
use it.
Wow, that's great. Well, anyway, I didn't even tie up on most of your time, but tell us about your book.
Okay, so this book right here, what really blew me away, and I'll show you, Dan, is that it is published by Mad Cow Press, which happens to be here in Eugene, Oregon.
Mad Cow Press.
Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Little Red Hen.
Distributed to the trade by Little Red Hen, Eugene, Oregon.
So this book right here is called Barry and the Boys. And Barry Seal was a CIA drug pilot. And what the whole title is Barry and the Boys, the CIA, the Mob, and America's Secret History. Copyright 2001 by Daniel Hopsicker. And he's the one that owns Mad Cow Press. And so you could probably order this book from him. Okay, so on the back of the cover right here, there's a guy, Bob Brill. And he was a technical advisor to the movie JFK by Oliver Stone. And he says that this book right here is explosive. That's what he says about it. The book is about a lifelong CIA agent that was a CIA pilot that was said to be the biggest drug smuggler in America's history. His name was Barry Seal. And High Times magazine said back then that Daniel Hopsicker, the guy that wrote this, got the goods on Seal. And what's really interesting, however, is the front of this cover photo. And this photo, you will see a bunch of guys sitting around in tuxedos. I don't know if you can see it from there.
Can't see it very well, probably, but yeah.
But anyway, they're all sitting around their tuxedos. And that was in January 22nd, 1963 in Mexico City. And this front cover is none other than a CIA assassination squad in Mexico City known as Operation 40. Okay? And Barry Seal was a CIA drug pilot back then. And he is the third from the left, which would be right here. Mm-hmm. Third from the left, okay. So, here is, and there's another interesting character that's right here named Felix Rodriguez, okay. And Felix was the top cop under Batista in Cuba. And in 1959, when Castro overthrew Cuba, Batista and Felix Rodriguez came to the United States, okay? And he was the one that tracked down Che Guevara in Bolivia and killed him, okay? And it is a rumor that this guy right here, right front cover on the left, is rumored to have cut off the hands of Che Guevara and has them in a jar on his dresser. Okay, so they say that he was hired in the CIA back in the late 60s, but he was actually hired in 1961. Does anybody want to guess who hired this guy? George Bush.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so inside the pages here, which is really cool about this book because I'll show you. They got documents, CIA documents, they got photographs, and they even got when Barry Seal, see, and there's that picture again that I was telling you about this on the front cover. They got photocopies of actual documents involving Barry Seal, but they also have pictures of Seal after he was assassinated in his Cadillac at a Salvation Army. And if you want to look right there, you can verify that's a MAC-10 submachine gun.
Yeah.
And so,
Wow.
if you do contact Mad Cow, let them know that you heard it from Mark and Dan on Cannabis TV. Okay. So now getting back to this assassination, what happened was, and I'm not going to spoil the whole book, but Seal had a video of the Bushes snorting cocaine. And he was going to blackmail the Bushes. And he had Bush's telephone number in his wallet at the time he was assassinated. And Bush had the CIA character that went by the name John Cathy, also known as Oliver North, take it over as a military operation when the hit team crossed the U.S. border. So that's in here. And that's how it all ended for Barry Seal. He was assassinated. I think he was sentenced to the Salvation Army, like a halfway house. Mm-hmm. So they just waited for him. Something else that was here was there was on page 404, it's about a 1976 CIA company named The Company. And what they did was they were hauling by plane 10-ton loads of high-grade Colombian marijuana. This is 1976 in Missouri, South Carolina, and Georgia. So if you got any good Colombian marijuana back in 1976 in Missouri, South Carolina, and Georgia, you can thank the CIA for helping you get high. So there was a 2-year DEA investigation about the company, and they found out that the company owned $1 billion worth of marijuana. Okay, this is your taxpayers at work. 33 airplanes, 3 airports, and warehouses in 7 states with profits at $48 million. Okay, just on selling marijuana. Okay, so page 106 links Nixon, Hunt, Rodriguez, and Bush. And this guy Rodriguez, you know, him and Bush have something in common. You know, when JFK was assassinated, both of them were in Texas, but they don't recall where they were. And if you ask each one, where were you? They don't recall. Okay, so, and George Bush likes Felix Rodriguez because he hired him. And what I found out that was very interesting was it filled in a gap about the JFK assassination. It talks about the Lake Pontchartrain, Louisiana secret CIA training camp that played a role in the JFK assassination. So I highly recommend this. You get the documents, you get like 60 pages with photographs, and
including the missing pages. Tell about
yeah,
that.
oh yeah. Now, when this book was written, all of a sudden, the pages are missing. And what happened was, that's because of a litigation that involved this book.
They were actually cut out of the book.
So they were actually cut out of the book, and that would be on page 381.
So that's it. Yeah. So go ahead to the title again, and
okay. So the title, the whole title is Barry and the Boys, and published in 2001 by Daniel Hopsicker. And the whole title is Barry and the Boys, the CIA, the Mob, America's Secret History. I highly recommend it because this is the stuff that you don't learn in school. And if you want to know the history about the Bay of Pigs.
Do you suffer from fear of losing your election? Are you terrified that voters will discover you've done nothing to improve their lives? Maybe it's time you talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex. In clinical trials, Incarcerex has been shown effective at reducing election-related anxieties by making voters think you're doing something about the drug problem. It's simplistic and fast-acting. If your problems continue or get worse, you can always double or triple your dose of Incarcerex. Whether it's addiction, therapeutic use, or just casual use, there's an Incarcerex plan for every American. Best of all, taxpayers, not you, will foot the bill. So talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex today. Common side effects include loss of civil liberties, police corruption, racial injustice, increased terrorism, spread of HIV and AIDS, and violent crime. Bloated prisons are also a common side effect. Stop taking Incarcerex if bloating lasts longer than 20 years. If you're trying to balance the budget, keep families together, or protect human rights, Incarcerex may not be right for you. Do not mix Incarcerex with the Constitution or common sense. So start taking Incarcerex and keep pretending you're doing something about the drug problem.
Welcome back to Eugene Cannabis TV, episode 665. And you got Mark here, and you got DanK, your host. We've just been talking about Burying the Boys in a book, an interesting read about the past history of the CIA and our government and drugs. Very telling, so to speak. The second part of the show today, I want to talk about an article I came across. RIP to the OMMP, the death of medical cannabis in Oregon. This was written by Emery Garcia on the 25th of November this year. I found this on cannabisnow.com. The subtitle, New Laws for Medical Marijuana in Oregon Are Shutting Out Small Farmers. And this is a continuing problem that I've talked about in the past, and I encourage people to fight to save our OMMP. We've got a new commission forming, the Oregon Cannabis Commission. There's going to be a meeting coming up Friday, which I'm planning on attending, and I'm going to report more on that. But the medical program is in trouble and big time, thanks to the Oregon legislature and Governor Brown and all those yahoos up there that really don't give a darn about medical people, or I mean cannabis people, or cannabis. And that's just a simple fact of the matter. So anyway, so Emery Garcia says that Glory Days Botanicals is the epitome of a family farm. At their headquarters deep in the mountains of southern Oregon, goats and horses keep fields mowed, chickens happily turn food scraps into compost, and well-kept orchards and garden plots provide fruits and vegetables year-round. But for well over a decade, small batch marijuana, medical cannabis has been their focus. GDB officially began in 2005 when the crew of 5 or so family members and friends began growing for themselves and a few needing patients under Oregon's new established medical marijuana program. When voters passed Initiative 28 in 2008, it allowed them to sell any of their surplus medicine to medical dispensaries around the state. The upstart remained small and true to their roots, choosing quality over quantity. They began investing time and money into a light supplemented and climate-controlled greenhouse for year-round production. Jeremiah Johnson, co-owner of GVD, and his now deceased father, Ralph, built the structure themselves, and for the first time in many years, the lights are off, doors are closed, and the beds lay fallow. We just have nowhere to sell our product, admits co-owner Jeremiah Johnson. The state is trying as hard as they can to squeeze us out. Glory Days is among thousands of medical marijuana producers in the state hit by a series of quick legislative changes to the program. While the OMMP still exists, Johnson believes the state is forcing out the small farmers and bending to the beckoning of big businesses. Oregon legalized adult use of cannabis in 2015, and medical marijuana dispensaries were the first to offer the product to the public. In 2017, the state required all recreational marijuana sales go through the Oregon Liquor Control Commission licensed dispensaries, a costly and time-consuming process involving thousands, often hundreds of thousands of dollars to acquire a license. Medical marijuana dispensaries were still allowed to buy and sell cannabis exclusively from and to medical patients. Things changed again in the second quarter of 2017 when the state began allowing OLCC licensed dispensaries to sell product to medical patients, while not allowing medical marijuana growers to sell the products to recreational dispensaries. According to Johnson, that was the first nail in the coffin. Then there were hundreds of medical dispensaries across the state last year. Now we are down to 11. We visited every single one of them and have product in most, but they are all saying the same thing. We just cannot compete with recreational dispensaries. Then on October 12th, GDB received a letter in the mail that would have their crew and growers across the state up in arms. In a closed-door session, Oregon legislature passed SB 1057. The new bill made drastic changes to the system. Patients are now effectively blocked from growing more than 12 plants at their place of residence, no matter the land use zoning. Rural residential properties now fall under the same 12-plant maximum restriction. We just spent $1,300 on renewing our patients' cards, and it turned out to be a waste. We can no longer grow from my mom or my sister because they live at the same address as our grow site. Though the greenhouse is empty, Johnson and GBD have not admitted defeat. They applied and received approval for an OLCC producer's license, but had planned on raising the capital to finish costly infrastructure improvements to their farm before going full-blown recreational. From security systems, construction projects, permitting, licensing, and employee wages, Johnson estimates a bare minimum of a $250,000 investment to enter the rec industry, even when they already own the property. We really wanted to do this all on our own. Now we have to look for outside funding to get things up and running, Johnson said. We could just continue to produce and look for a place on the black market for our product, but we are doing everything by the book. For Emily Vandruff, one of the small handful of GBD's employees, shutting down was the last thing she expected. We've done everything we can to keep going, producing a quality product we are proud of, following testing and tracking requirements, and visiting every possible dispensary in the state, and we just can't afford to keep going. I've been pushed out of the best job I've ever had. The list of new rule changes almost monthly, but for now the state has begun grow site inspections and requires all growers with more than 12 plants to enter the metric cannabis tracking system. A move government officials believe will help slow illegal out-of-state cannabis sales. Growers, on the other hand, feel forced in the opposite direction. If you take away the legal outlet for the farmers, they'll be forced to find somewhere else to unload their product. At GDB, the crew is hopeful despite the shutdown. We will be back up and running soon, but just wonder how many others won't be so lucky, Johnson said. The OMMP allowed us to produce low-cost, high-quality medicine for patients across the state. I just can't shake the feeling that those very same patients are going to bear the brunt of these new laws. Oh, it's bad. It's bad, bad, bad. I've been saying it for a long time, and it's the commercial. It's the industry, and I've had people on this show. I won't name names yet, but I'm getting mad enough where I'm about ready to. I have some local people that have been on this show that were all raw legalization, and now their pockets are getting fuller and fuller, and the patients are hurting more and more. And you don't see these people out there helping the patients that I know of. So
I had the medical marijuana card in Colorado, and the medical marijuana that we got was a lot stronger than here. And over here, I don't know, it's kind of different, the way they tax it. But I think that government is in Colorado now is stifling the marijuana industry with more and more regulations. And, I think that if you compare price and quality to other states, I think that Oregon is suffering a little because of all these regulations that are coming out of Salem.
Definitely over-regulated. And the comment, I mean, that was just the article. I've got a page and a half of comments that people wrote in, and which is really telling. This one is Heather. She said, as a cannabis nurse in Oregon, I am having a harder time finding product that I can rely on as for my patients. What a tragedy. Supporting small local family farms is the way to support Oregonians, both patients and farmers. I am so disappointed in our state and decisions made here. We should be the leaders of high quality medicine in our country as we were in the past. Now we have been sold to big business. So, I mean, there it is, pretty well. And then somebody else wrote, Allison wrote, this is exactly our situation, exactly. We are forced to comply with OLCC or quit. We also have family members we grow for that live on the farm that we can't grow for because there are too many plants. The cost of infrastructure has left us staggering and halfway completed because we are out of cash, trying to be compliant. Stuck in the middle right now because we spent almost $60,000 and need another $20,000 before we are done. And we own our own property. Can go forward, can't go back. Can't get a loan because we grow plutonium, don't you know? It sucks, and ultimately my patients are without medicine. And then it's just there's a story after story, you know. But this one I thought was really good. He said, how about a discussion on the 5% loss allowed on rec farms, which I know without naming farms, this loss goes to the black market. This is in itself has been a this in itself has made medical a target, hence the law changes. If OLCC really addresses these issues, it might have they might not attack medical. So anyway, like I said, there's some people that are working on working with this new commission. Personally, I remain pessimistic because there was the ACMM, which is the advisory board, which made up patients and different people. It was the advisory board. What a joke! The OLC, the Oregon Health Association, and they're ignoring them like they're, just let them run off the mouth and never, they didn't do anything for the patients. Let's put it that way. And I personally am very pessimistic that this new commission is going to help. But we've got to do something, folks, and it's the only show in town. So please get a hold of us, and I can get you in touch with some people that are working on it and see what we can do. But quick, December 9th is the Cannabis Cup. Don't forget, Cannabis Cup down in Dillard. So I appreciate you coming in again, Mark. And you got a few seconds to wrap up? Anything you want to put in?
Well, Mad Cow Productions in Eugene, Oregon is Daniel Hopsicker, one of the very best investigative journalists. If you want to know your American history, read this book. It's very entertaining. It's all true. It's great. And I want to say 420 for life. I hope that the situation in Salem becomes that to where they recognize that all these medical marijuana patients want organic marijuana grown on small farms for safe access.
Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything.